Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's Cloud Talk. I'm just going to give it a few more seconds to allow more people to join before we get started. Okay, I think the joining has started to slow down. So welcome everyone to today's Cloud Talk. We're joined today by Amit Agarwal, who works for IBM and thankfully works for Bupa a couple of days a week. So we're able to have him here with us today to take us through this Cloud Talk, which will be covering the latest trends and recommendations on cloud security. This session is being recorded, and after Amit has taken us through his presentation on cloud security today, we're allocating some time for questions and answers. So as any questions might pop into your mind going through this session this morning, please do feel free to add them into the Q&A box or the chat. There'll also be an opportunity at the end to come off of mute and verbally ask your question. So whichever way works best for you is absolutely fine to get your questions answered. We don't know how many questions there will be yet, so we'll get through as many as we can in the time allocated. But Amit is also open to people contacting him directly for any questions that you might want to direct to him personally or that don't get answered today. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Amit and get started with today's Cloud Talk on cloud security. Over to you, Amit.
Thank you, Sharon. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking an hour out of your busy schedule to come and hear me. I hope it should be worthwhile your time. I'll try to do justice on that. As Sharon mentioned, I am an associate partner with IBM. I lead the cloud security department in UKI, and I'm also working in Bupa 40% of my time as a principal architect for IAM. Okay. So today in the talk, we are going to explore about why security is important, especially when we are trying to digitally transform our organization. What are the latest trends in this? What do we need to be careful about? How do we make sure we create a security culture? And we'll go through some of the examples of what can be done to provide a robust security framework in the organization. Okay, so you are able to see my screen. Yeah. Now, we all know we are on an accelerated digital transformation path. Right? In the last town hall of Mark Glenn's town hall, Charles Butler gave his vision of how we are going to accelerate in Bupa. How are we going into that accelerated journey of growing our customer base? Previously, Herman was also presenting on the architecture forum his digital strategy and how digital is going to grow. Right. So when we are doing that, what changes essentially? Right? We are going to have changes across application and data, where data becomes a shared resource for users and applications. We are going to enable everywhere and anywhere access for all our customers and colleagues, right? And also in terms of infrastructure, it's no longer going to be a siloed on-prem state. Rather, it's going to get distributed across the multi-cloud platforms like Google and Microsoft. Yet, security is security. Right? We used to protect our assets on-prem. We need to protect our assets on cloud. Whether you're doing security, your own personal security, when you are at home, you don't leave your front door open when you come to office, right? Make sure it's locked. You don't leave your car door open when you are walking into the office and leave your car in a car park saying the car park is going to take care of my car. You make sure your car is locked so the valuables are protected. It's the same. Right? When we are going to cloud, we need to make sure we have got consistent security controls. Whatever controls are there for on-prem, the same controls are applicable to cloud. It's just that the implementation of those controls will change. Okay. And there has to be a central visibility of all of those threats and compliance metrics. They're saying, are we secure enough or not? Are we meeting our regulatory compliance needs or not? Okay. Now, what changes when we go to cloud? What are the different parameters that change? Okay. So First of all, we should have a robust cloud security strategy. We should be able to manage our identities across people, APIs, and devices. Our cloud networks, I mean, the cloud is open by nature, so it's a dissolved perimeter which comes into picture in that one. Okay, our data, we need to make sure our critical data assets is protected wherever we have got, wherever it's residing. Um, Accelerated development, right? So when we are developing our applications to cloud, one of the key parameters of going to cloud is flexibility and rapid time to market, speed to market. So we cannot say that, yeah, we want to go to cloud, but it's going to take us years and years to create applications and go through the security checkpoints. No, it needs to be, we should be able to be agile and tap into the market needs. We have to consistently protect all our workloads, and we need to make sure that we have centralized visibility of threats. Now, if we look into the key metrics which we have got, as per Gartner, 99% of the incidents or the failures would be because of cloud-based configurations. And that's the responsibility of a customer. Here, customer means customer of the cloud platform. It's not our customer. So as a customer of Microsoft or Google, it's our fault, right? Any misconfiguration on cloud. So we need to be careful around that. This is from IBM's cost of data breach report, that average cost to counter a data breach or to respond to a data breach is around 4.45 million, right? Obviously, it varies by insurance and varies by countries, but globally it's 4.5 million. Almost half of the world's data would be on cloud by 2025, right? Bupa is on that same accelerated path as well. I think we have a vision of putting 70 or 90% on cloud in the next couple of years. There's a 4 million shortage of skills, right? So there are 4 million jobs globally which are unfilled in cybersecurity. So if anyone wants an accelerated career, if anyone wants fancy to be a cloud expert or security expert, please talk to us. Right? There are trainings available. It's the right time to come into the cyber market. Okay? And on average, there are about 85 different tools an organization would use across the landscape. Now, that's a lot. 85 security products, it's a lot. How do we make sure that we create consistent security across all of these tools? That's the exam question. Okay. On to my next slide. So this is from our Expose Threat Intelligence Index. Right? So Expose is a research department in IBM where we respond to customers' incidents and all. And then based on that data, based on our research on dark web, we produce a report every February. So this is from February 24, right? And the key highlights of the report was that from last year to this year, there has been a 71% increase in credential attacks, right? So phishing attacks using valid accounts, that has increased, which means that there is a global identity crisis which is emerging. Okay, we all know the Okta replay attack which happened, right? So we need to make sure that our identity and access controls are robust. We have multi-factor authentication implemented. We need to make sure that we have we can conform to single identities, identity platform, etc. Right? So cut down the silos and have those robust IAM controls across the bank. There had been 30% of the incidents which Expose has responded to were abusing valid accounts, right? It could be deep faking your CEO's account, getting a business compromise email from your CEO, could be anything. Ransomware, till 2022, ransomware was one of the topmost attack vectors. This year it went down, primarily because most of the companies have created countermeasures to ransomware. They're taking data backups and all. And there has been a trend where companies are saying no to extortion, saying we will not pay you. You might want to delete our data. We have backups. We'll restore whatever we want to do. We might take a business loss, but we are not going to pay you. And that led to a decrease in the ransomware-based attack. But equally, it led to an 3.5 times, which is 266%, increase in info stealing malware. Okay, so instead of encrypting your data and say you can't use it, now they are trying to steal critical pieces of information from the data. Okay. AI. everyone is talking about AI, everyone is talking about Gen AI, Llama 2, ChatGPTs, etc. Even our research group found there were about 800,000 relevant posts in the dark web on AI. However, the AI attacks we haven't seen many attacks on AI, primarily because critical organizations have not used it for mission critical apps, right, or productionized apps and all. It's still early stage. Plus, there is too much volatility in the market. No one has come up with an emerging technology. And our estimate is once the market gets stabilized and we'll have 2 or 3 prominent players in the market, that's when we are going to see a surge of on AI attacks. Okay. Going further, from a geographic perspective, Europe still remains the topmost continent, where with 32% of the attacks across the world coming in Europe. Right? And even in Europe, so again, some more metrics saying malware has been the topmost one. User legitimate tools, so that's your phishing attacks, and they compromise your accounts and get access to that. Business compromise emails, etc. They have been the topmost attack vectors. In terms of industries, manufacturing has been the topmost, but the second position is financial insurance, and then healthcare comes at 6. Right, so professional and business consumers is 3, healthcare has 6. Why we are showing this is because Bupa is both an insurance company and a healthcare provider, right? So now at number 2 and number 6, we are at one of the top 10s in the market who can be attacked, who can be targeted by the hacker community. So in terms of finance insurance, again, malware has been the biggest one. Use of legitimate tools, right? Server access, DDoS, these are the common attack vectors which we are seeing. It's a common trend, both for, in finance and insurance, plus healthcare as well, use of legitimate tools, right? So IAM is important, especially when we are going to cloud, where everything is open by nature. IAM is the king. We need to make sure that all the access are restricted. We need to adopt least privilege access and go with a zero trust mindset. Only you're allowed, we should be allowed access to only that resource, which is just enough to do our job. Okay. Otherwise, we are leaving it open for the attackers to come in. Now, let's come back to the cloud security things. Right? Whenever we talk to our clients and other CISOs in the industry, we see 4 common things which come up in a robust cloud security program. What do our customers look for? Number 1, they need that we need to establish an effective and measurable cloud security program. So it can be go back to the board and say, this is what we have done, and this is the value it's bringing to the organization. Automation, so programmatically protect our workloads, applications, data, and identities across the hybrid cloud. Right? So to cut down the manual processes, increase your speed to market. Okay, you should need the ability to predict, prevent, and respond to threats. Right, so in near real time, especially when it is on cloud, it's so widely spread that if we don't have those automated prevention mechanism, if you don't have those alerts and triggers configured, it becomes unmanageable very easily and quickly. And of course, we should always have a continuous assurance and improvement feedback loop. Okay. So what are the key challenges when we try to do all of those things? First one, risk of cloud misconfiguration. Okay. A misconfiguration on-prem is not as damaging as a misconfiguration on cloud because we use a lot of native features. There are lots of platform as a service resources which we do. Even a VM on cloud is not the same as a VM on-prem, right? The control mechanism changes. The control plane on cloud is totally different to the control plane on-prem. So we need to make sure that because on cloud, it's mostly configuration. You would provision a VM and then create the config parameter saying this is how a VM is going to run. We need to make sure that we have defined the controls and we confirm to those controls there is minimum drift on those controls. Lack of visibility and decentralized administration. As we go multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, this becomes a problem. We need to have that single pane of glass where we are able to see, was I secure yesterday? Was I secure pre-birth? Am I secure post-birth? Once my workloads are live on the cloud, has there been a change? Is there a new vulnerability which has come up? Have I done enough to make sure that my applications are still secure in cloud? Okay. Shared responsibility. Now, everyone has heard about security of the cloud versus security in the cloud, right? Where security of the cloud is the cloud provider's responsibility, security within the cloud is our responsibility. But where does that off end and in begin? Where is that line which says this is the CSP responsibility and this is the customer's responsibility? And even within the organization, when we say that security in the cloud is our responsibility, who does what within the organization? So in Bupa, what would the infrastructure team do? What would the CISO team do? What would the cloud team do? What would the application team do? It's important for us to understand what are our roles and responsibility and who is accountable for what, right? The next one is inability to rapidly detect and respond to threats across the hybrid cloud estate. So we need to make sure that we have got the correct matrices, correct alerts there. When we are on cloud, we would have loads and loads of logs being generated. Most of that is noise. How do you differentiate actionable matrices from noise? That becomes important, right? So start thinking on those lines. Lack of expertise and experience, as we saw, 4 million jobs are still unfulfilled. There is a shortage gap of skills. So read, learn. There are lots of resources available to learn about security programs. All of the leading CSPs have their own security certification. Microsoft has AZ100, AZ500. Google has Google Cloud Security Engineer and Google Cloud Architect certifications. Go for that. Learn those things. I think there are some free training and education programs available in Bupa as well. Shannon is going to share those links. So invest time in learning these technologies. Architectural complexities. What I mean by architectural complexities is when we are going to cloud, it's a journey and it's a multi-year journey. You can't just say today I'm on-prem, tomorrow I'll be on cloud. That never happens. Okay. Whenever we do that, there will be a state where we would have some workloads on-prem, some on cloud, right? And slowly our on-prem estate will go down and cloud will go up. But that brings us in that hybrid state, and that makes things more and more complicated. So on-prem, a very complicated hybrid platform, and then you go to cloud where the on-prem reliance is low and the cloud take-up is more. And that brings architectural complexity. So this will be a time where there would be complexities and we have to deal through that, and we need to make sure that we are ready for that. How are we ready for that? We'll look into the other slides, but for now, we just make sure that you are prepared, saying, yes, there will be complexity. Yes, we will have complicated designs. Yes, we have to get through that. Okay. And the last one is native concentration risk versus third party. Right? So we have all heard that argument everywhere when I worked in my previous organization as well. Everyone says, oh, we should have a cloud first native strategy. But when we say cloud native first, what do we mean by cloud native? Is it the native security products of the CSPs? Or is it a third-party product which can run on cloud, right? How much of cloud native should we go for? Okay. Do we create a concentration risk if we are using all the native products? Is there a balancing factor there? How much of third-party products should we do? How much of native should we do? We all deal with that. And there is no right or wrong answer. It all depends on the organizational risk appetite. It all depends on the organizational cloud strategy. Right? And based on that, we need to make sure that they're equally applicable to security products and security tools as well. Okay. So to solve all of these complexities, etc., what do we want? We need to have a structured and a comprehensive approach, right? And there are three main phases to that. Align, where we align your strategy and compliance. Protect, where we put in a shift left mindset with DevSecOps. And then manage, where we look into threat management and threat intelligence and everything. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these dots. It might be too heavy for now. We can always have an offline chat if anyone wants to go through each of these in details, right? However, I've simplified these, tried to simplify by putting some major ones. So let's just go through that. Okay. So in terms of Align, the four key programs that you need to do is first, have a robust cloud security strategy. So we all have a cloud strategy in Bupa. I hope everyone has seen that. Richard Adams has provided that cloud strategy. Accompanying that cloud strategy should be a cloud security strategy as well, which says this is how we are going to make our cloud estate secure across Azure, across GCP, and right now we are on Amazon as well. So what do we do for all of these three? Okay. Cloud security architecture, we need to have macro level designs which will address our networks, infrastructure, endpoints, IAM, security operations, threat modeling, etc. So take a threat-based approach and create a cloud security architecture, especially to deal that architecture complexity. Okay. One of the key principles of good security is KISS. What does it mean? Keep it simple and secure. Okay. Or keep it, some people say keep it simple and stupid, or secure and stupid. There are many names to that. However, it says keep it simple, which means that the simpler your architecture is, the, the more secure it would be. However, because during our cloud migration journey, we know that we will have a complicated architecture state. We need to be prepared for that by doing right cloud security architecture during the initial phases, at least. Okay. Native security design, we already touched upon it in the previous one, saying have a low commitment, quick start engagements to just go and test those workloads on cloud and say, yeah, I am able to use the native tools and this is how I'm going to secure my cloud state. And then the fourth one, which is the most critical one, is identify your critical data assets. When we are going to cloud, what is it that anyone would like to steal? Right? We saw in the previous the trends slide that there is a 266% increase in info stealer malware. Right? It's our critical data which needs to be protected, especially because being a healthcare provider and insurance provider, we deal with highly restricted medical data of our customers. That data needs to be protected at all costs. Classify your data and then provide appropriate mechanisms to secure the data and protect the data when we are dealing with hybrid cloud situations. Okay. On the next one, when we go to the protect phase, right? Secure by design, we need to establish a secure by design. Now, secure by design has many parameters. One of the parameters is a culture. Now, remember this, security is not for Christmas. We can't put security as an afterthought. It starts on 1st of January. You have to start security from day one. We need to make sure that we don't treat security just as non-functional requirements. They are very much a part of mainline requirements. So whenever you're starting a project, make sure you define your security requirements and all. And for that, we need to understand what is security. What are the secure coding best practices? How do you do security? Why security is important? And that's why training and awareness becomes of most importance. Right? So invest in reading those, the security, attend security webinars, sign up for security forums, get the security feeds, go through the security training and culture programs. Second one, secure by design application development. This is all about building applications based on a secure environment and security best practices. So start with threat modeling, establish your the security controls you need to abide by, and create applications which can address those vulnerabilities and gaps which have been identified. Establish core security controls early. This is all about going touch basing your networks, endpoint data, and identity controls early during the project, and make sure that what do we need to abide by. There are, if you go to the Confluence, there are security controls defined for each and every domain. During the project, go through that, identify which ones are applicable to you, and then create a spreadsheet where you can write down saying, yes, this is the requirement, this is how I am doing it. Okay. And then when you have completed it during the testing, go back and check that have you done the job right. Okay. Create Jira tickets, create Monday task, anything. You can use any workflow tool to track your security requirements and whether you have done a good job on compliance or not. Security control automation, right? Again, when we are on cloud, it's all about rapid deployment, rapid development, etc. So make sure you invest in technology where security controls can be automated. We are going to look into a live example of this. How can we automate security by doing good governance and all? Right? But whenever we are writing ISS scripts, try doing some ISA scanning, invest in ISA scanning tool, which will tell you what are the problems. Okay. When we are doing our, even when you are writing application development programs, make sure you do SAST, and it can tell you what are the vulnerabilities in your, what are the security gaps in your code, and how can you fix all of those things. Okay. And then the last one, which we recommend, is offensive testing. So no matter what you do, no matter how much left you can go, there will be a gap, right? We will always leave something. And that's where offensive testing comes into picture, wherein we say, before I want to go live, make sure we have got this, we have got the red hat testing and the blue hat testing, where you go in and then they'll try to break your system and tell you that this is the gap. I found this vulnerability. Let's fix it before we are going into production. Okay. And then the third phase, which is about management. So when we are in the run phase, right? First and foremost, threat management. We need to make sure that we create business-focused, pragmatic framework which can look into our threat management estate. Infuse AI, try to cut down your triage process, try to cut down your response process. You can automate a lot of response tasks by using AI tools which are available these days. Create a single pane of visibility, single pane of glass visibility. What we mean by that is we'll have workloads on Google, we'll have workloads on Microsoft, we'll have workloads on-prem. How do we know that we are secure everywhere or not? The same control is applicable on all the three clouds. I mean, if you have a control which says critical data should be encrypted at rest every time, is all the data encrypted at rest across all the environments? Yes, no. How do you know that? One, put the data tagging, put some rules on that, create a scanner which will say if the data has been tagged as business critical, business confidential, etc., is it an encrypted state or clear text state? Make sure that it's we scan all the environments wherever the data resides and have a single dashboard which can tell us that against this control, where are we? And there are tools available which can automate all of these for us. It doesn't have to be done manually. And that also brings in continuous compliance, wherein we put into tool-based compliance, do the scans in real time. We can't reach real time as of now, but yeah, near real time, half an hour scans or an hour scan, depending on the criticality of the applications, should be implemented, right, to give us a current posture assessment of where we are. Okay. Now, okay, what I wanted to say in this slide is, generally, when we are doing a cloud transformation program, what would we do? So just let's say, this is not security, this is just a normal cloud transformation. We would have a cloud strategy assessment. We'll say, what do we need to do? We'll do the 6R analysis, retain, retire, refactor, redesign, etc. And then the cloud strategy is defined. And then we'll migrate some of the applications to cloud. There could be merger and accelerations, which we have to accelerate, application modernization. We implement DevOps, right? Market, it's DevOps, not DevSecOps yet. We'll come to the DevSecOps bit. Core system modernization, we have programs going on where we would modernize our Swift and Swarm platforms, right? Product excellence, automation, application management, and that's in the managed phase where we are in the run side of things, service management, platform engineering, etc. Now, when we are doing all of these things, what can we do for security? Okay, so this is where we turn it around and say, what are the various security things that we can do across the life cycle? Okay. Number one, when we are doing the cloud assessment, do a cloud security assessment as well. If we have a brownfield environment, let's find out what are the vulnerabilities, what are the gaps currently we have, and how do we uplift the security posture. Based on that assessment, we can then input that into our cloud security strategy. Right? So the cloud strategy will say, this is how we are going to adopt the cloud. And then we'll say, by the way, these are our gaps. This is what we need to do that. This is where we are. This is where we need to go. And these are the security program of work which are required. Okay? And you can refer to any of the industry leading standards. You can take NIST-based approach, etc., to do this. Then cloud security posture management, when we are actually doing a transform, implement that continuous compliance loop, which will say, have you done what was required to be done? Okay, or is there any drift? So monitor that. SSPM is where if you're using a SaaS-based product, there are tools in the market which can scan those SaaS products and say, oh, it's a shared tenant model, right? So is my data really protected? because if Bupa is using a SaaS platform, there might be Aviva as well who are getting access to the same SaaS platform. Is there an overly access permission? Can there be a data leakage scenario? So it will scan all of those and then tell us whether our SaaS providers are complying with the best practices or not. Okay. SASE, this is about opening our networks, right? So opening networks securely. So allowing our workforce to securely access all our services. Okay. This would include your SD-WAN service, firewall as a service, etc. Data and identity protection, that's where we classify all of our data and make sure that proper access management rules are implemented for all of those data, right? So implement role-based access process, access control, attribute-based access control, policy-based access control. This is all comes into this particular phase. DevSecOps, right? So when we are doing DevOps, implement sec, shift left, and do DevSecOps. Just don't do DevOps, right? It's important we take a threat-based approach, take threat modeling, start with threat modeling, and then that will tell us what needs to be protected and how it should be protected. Another bit, when we are when we are in an application development journey, we use a lot of third-party tools. Okay? So what happens in that supply chain? What if a third-party library has got a vulnerability? How do you find that? So make sure our supply chain is protected adequately. Okay. Adverse simulation, this is again, do an attack surface management and then do the pen test, red testing, etc. Ask the white hat testers to go in and try to hack the system and tell us whether we have done a good job, a decent enough job, or are there still gaps which can be exploited. Application visibility and segmentation. This is where we would look into the network segmentation and say, can workload A talk to workload B? How do I make sure that application A is not accessed by application B? How do we minimize the risk of a lateral flow, right? Our network should not be a big, wide open zone that once you walk in the building, you can go to any floor in any room. No, everything needs to be on the basis of least privilege access. Prevent, protect, and detect and respond to all of those threats. Vulnerability management. At any point of time, any organization would have thousands of vulnerabilities open. How do you prioritize that? What is critical? What is important? That all depends on risk-based vulnerability management. So identify your risk, contextualize your vulnerabilities, and then prioritize the resolutions of that. Manage cloud security. This is where you create a team where we're saying, okay, there's a new network being opened, there's a new firewall being opened on cloud. Have a team which is going to validate that, vet that, and say, yeah, I'm happy with this change. Go ahead and do these things. Okay. And of course, it's always good to have an incident response retainer from one of the premium providers. So things go wrong, you have protection. There's someone who can come back, who can stand in and then help you recover your systems. Okay. Now, let's quickly go through a live example of how this can be done. So I have done this based on Azure because I know there's a strategic landing zone being created on Azure. So this gives an illustrative method of how we can automate security. So the black boxes are the teams, the various teams which are involved. So where it starts is every organization will have their organizational risk listed down, right? So you will have a risk department which are going to look into the financial, non-financial, healthcare risk, etc. And then the IT risks are then owned by the CISO department, where they will create all the policies and controls saying these are all the risks our organization might face, and these are the compliance policies where all the applications need to adhere to. Now, what we should be doing is we should have representation from the CISO office in the cloud security COE. They would have ongoing input into the solution architecture to make sure that all our solutions are secure. This cloud security COE would define cloud security policies. What we mean by that is a policy which is applicable on-prem. The control is equally applicable on cloud, but the mechanism will the way of implementation will differ. So for each and every service, each and every product, the cloud native product which we use on cloud. So if you are using GCP, if you are using GCP bucket or a VM or PostgreSQL, we should define the policies which are applicable to that particular product. Those policies then gets vetted against any solution architect, right, which we are creating, solution architecture. So we are saying that this is how a booking hub is going to be created on Google. So when we do that, that's our architecture for this. You will be using a PostgreSQL. My my security reference document says for Postgres, these are the controls you need to be compliant with. Apply these on this particular architecture. Once you have done that, that would then give us our next step where we can create those ISE scripts. And those ISE scripts can then be hardened against the policies which we have created. Once we have done the hardened scripts, now publish that into a Bupa specific Azure DevOps marketplace, right? So we have the Azure marketplace where you have the vanilla VMs where Azure gives us, but they are never hardened. We can create our own hardened VMs, hardened products, databases, networks, etc., and then publish them on the Azure DevOps marketplace. That will, the benefit for that is now when the application developers or the infrastructure guys, when they want to use it, instead of going to the Azure marketplace and getting a product and then putting all the hardening rules on that, we have got a product which is approved by the CISO department, and then now it can be easily used and adopted within the projects. Okay, and what they would have all the common configurations around your identity and access management, privilege access management, SIEM, etc. Then you have the DevOps squads who will get the hardened infrastructure scripts. They just provision in infrastructure, start putting their application code on that, start accelerating, get into an agile mode of development, publish all of your products. So these are the Bupa products which goes out in the market. But then it doesn't end here, right? On the right side, we then configure CSPM. So there is that Defender for Cloud. If you're familiar with Azure, which will have all of the policies, we can add our own custom policies as well based on the cloud security policies which we have done. So you can do it by implementing Azure policies on these. They will then see saying we gave you all of these requirements, the infrastructure and code, the scripts and everything were created. Is it really working in production or not? Ideally, we should not have any drifts. If we have, then the feedback goes back into the policies and we modify that. And the journey continues. Okay, so that's one of the implementation which you can do. And then if we go on the next one, here I've created an illustration of how we can do it on a greenfield environment and a brownfield environment. So on a greenfield environment, we would have standard pre-certified products which could be used by the business development teams. It's the best happy path scenario. This product should not be changed or modified by any of the application teams. They should only be done by the infrastructure team and the CISO department. Okay, and then mature DevOps team should be allowed to design and deploy the infrastructure, but then they need to adhere to cloud security frameworks. If there is feedback on that, we already have a feedback loop. If something is not working, if something is blocking you, that can go back, and then we can always publish the next version, right? And then start consuming it. Now, if we have not done it, if we are already in a brownfield environment where things have gone and cloud is already there, and we have concerns saying it might not be working properly or might have gaps, it's not the end of the world. We can always take a threat-based approach. So take a list of those existing services, model your services for threats, do a threat modeling on that, identify what are the gaps, remediate, refactor that, create those ISA scripts, publish them back, and the business DevOps team can start implementing that. Okay, so the two different approaches which has been listed there. With that, it brings to the end of this particular presentation. How am I doing with time? Moderators, am I okay with this?
Yep, we have 20 minutes, so yes, we have good time. I think we have good time, hopefully, for the rest of the presentation and questions. Thanks, Amit.
Thank you. So we'll open to questions now.
Excellent. Sorry, apologies. I was just heading to settings. So thanks, Amit, there for that sort of comprehensive overview, sharing your expertise with us there. We will now go to questions. I'm about to switch on mics for people, so people can, if people want to raise their questions on the call, then they'll be able to very shortly. Additionally, if for any reason you prefer to sort of type out your questions, please feel free to put them into the chat, and we'll pick them up from there. Also, whilst we're doing that, we're going to launch a couple of polls, which should be fairly easy to answer. Some of them just about where the functions that you're based in, and also the topics that you would like to see further. Sessions on, just so that we can make sure that we're providing you with relevant information going forward. So mics are now enabled. Hopefully, if you need to speak, you can switch on your own mic to share with Amit I mean, again, those polls, that poll is available. I'll also add that Sharon has put details of some specific training courses that are relevant to the topics that Amit's been covering here. We'll share at the end of this as well links to the cloud training portal if you've not already taken a look, so you can dig through to see training in specific areas that are relevant to you. You can also contact Sharon. Sharif is out on well-deserved leave this week, but Sharon and Sharif Bauer in the cloud training team can answer specific questions if you're going through the cloud training portal and can't find the information that you specifically require. We also, I believe, I'm checking, I think we have David Coles who's supporting as well the cloud transformation program as leader, as the network architect as well on the course. So if we have any specific questions about the cloud transformation program and its approach to security, we have David as well who will be able to support any questions.
Yep. Hi guys, great to meet you all.
Thanks, David. Do we have any questions? I'm just checking. That's good. I mean, this probably suggests that your comprehensive coverage, you've answered all the questions we will have. Just give another few minutes just in case anyone is mulling over their points.
If you can't think of a question now and get one later, feel free to ping me on Teams. I'll try to respond as I see the questions. So that's perfectly fine with me.
Yes, I was going to say, so yeah, to Amit's point there, whilst he's not with Bupa 5 days a week, he can sort of pick up any questions, and again, David as well. So specific questions might be best directly approached with Amit once you've had a chance to consider them. In that case, I think unless there's any last minute questions there, I'll just check the chat for anything that's hidden from me. We'll let people get back to the day job, as it was. Thank you again, Amit. We will share the recording of this call, and as a reminder, recordings of all the cloud talks are available on WorkVivo and the SharePoint, I believe, as well. So we'll share that information so people can go back to it. If there is specific topics that you are interested in, maybe you weren't able to put the nuances of that into the poll that we've just done, again, feel free to contact Sharon or Sharif with suggestions of topics that you'd like covered, and we'll do our best to continue to bring information that's relevant to you. So thank you again, and have a good day.
Thank you all for hearing me out. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Amit.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.